All right, we've got more nonsense for the comments. We're gonna chime in here. This is from Gab D. Wolf. Here's a topic no one's covering: fish room layouts. Sure, everyone does a tour of their channel's room, but how and why are rooms laid out? Yeah, so I think we're all flying by the seat of our pants. When I originally started YouTube, one of the reasons, well, it wasn't to be a YouTuber, because that didn't exist back then. So it was to be able to share on forums how to do stuff, because I had searched the internet high and low to find out automatic water change and air manifold systems and drain systems and how to drill an aquarium. And the resources were really hard to find on these archaic websites where, it'd be like, oh, I'm on a GeoCities site over here, I'm on an Angel Fire site over there, this random forum over here. And so I thought, well, if I'm gonna build something, I can at least record it and maybe I can throw it up on the internet and it'll help the next person. That's how I got started. And so being that that's been like the last 10, 12 years of my life, I don't think there's been that many people that have done that many fish rooms. And what I mean by that is, you might get someone like an interior designer for a living room, and they might do 40 of them a year because that's their job. No one's really doing it on a professional level for the home hobbyist. You might be designing some layouts for Petcos, and maybe that's your job, but you're not gonna go out of your way to design a home space, right? And so you've seen me go through on the YouTube channel, like 3 different homes, one a rental, then a house we bought, and then now this was a dedicated space for it. And you've even seen me change it up in here several times because I don't know what I want. And you don't learn until you do something, right? And so you're always gonna see evolution. I could see just right behind me right now, I could be like, oh, we put a couch in. Oh, and that potted plant of pothos, we upgraded the pot size. And I know I'm taking down a lot of the aquariums. And I actually put, right there, I put in a desk so I spend more time with my fish. And these are all things that I've learned. My original first fish room, if you will, was my living room. My living room was, at the time, we had like a TV and we had some couches, 2 couches, and I had a desk, and I was a big gamer nerd. Shocker, right? You didn't expect that. And so, I could be chilling, watching some TV, the wife's on the couch, doing what she's doing, and I'd be playing video games, and then I'd go be on the couch, and that was that. And then I started getting into fish tanks, and then it was, well, I can have a fish tank on my desk. I can have a fish tank next to my desk because the TV's over here. I can put one over here. It was the first aquarium was 65 gallon in our bedroom. The second one was a 100-gallon aquarium right next to my desk. And I think the third one was a 10 or 9.5 gallon on my desk. And so that was the first ones, right? But my first fish room was my living room because eventually the couch that would have been behind my desk left. So I could put another 75-gallon aquarium there. And then there was another like kind of empty spot next to some stairs. I put a 55-gallon tank there, and then below it, I put a 20-gallon, right? Or I guess a 10-gallon. And so now I had my living room that had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 aquariums in it. And that was my fish room. And it was great because I spent all my time in there. You wanna watch TV? Great, I'm with my aquariums. You wanna play on the computer? Great, I'm with my aquariums. You wanna work on your aquariums? Great, I'm in the living room. That setup was actually dang near perfect. I loved it, and it was a manageable size aquariums. My wife didn't love it because if anybody came over, there was basically like 3 people could sit on the couch and 1 person could sit in my computer chair. It was not great for entertaining. And we always sketched out that the landlord was gonna be like, what have you done? Too much water, right? But then eventually I go, well, I want more, I need more. And so we had a 1-car garage with this duplex, and that's where the washer and dryer was and everything. And so I started building a fish room out there. And that one ended up having roughly 35 tanks or so. And I still had the tanks inside, by the way. So I had both. And that one had its own unique charm, and the layout was just put stuff where you could put it. But I remember it being warm, and there'd be like the washer and dryer going, and I could sit in a chair and I would fall asleep like watching the fish, and it was great. And I had a lot of catfish, so I'd turn the lights out and just watch them be active in the tanks with just blue moonlight. And so that was pretty cool. But then you move, you set up a new fish room in a different garage and a different style, and you learn things. So I went from having almost lots of 20 gallons, lots of 55s, to then I went to lots of 40 breeders and then big ponds. And I played with that for a while. I was harvesting Daphnia and I was breeding stuff and like crystal shrimp and apistos and some live bearers and other stuff. And that was kind of an office setup and a garage. And then I moved to my house when we bought the house. And during that time, between those two, I built a store. And you guys have seen what my old was, like lots of cinder blocks and just, you buy tanks. And at the time, I think it depends on where you're at in your hobby and where you're at in your life. I would buy used tanks. I would buy stores going out of business. I would do all of these things to get on the cheap because I wanted a lot of tanks. And that worked out great. Really, if it holds water and you can see in, you can keep fish, you can breed them, you can play with them, you can do whatever you want with them. That's good. But that room never had the flow I liked. And what do I mean by that is like there's no good spot to like sit and just watch and be like, wow, like I can see a scud. I can see a scud swimming right here. You never see that unless you're sitting right here. You can't see that from across the room. That would never happen. I've got a chair right here. Why? So I can look at my tanks. Right? You would never see that. So you're just gonna miss out on stuff like that. But I was importing fish and I was selling them to other stores and I was breeding fish and it was monetarily totally viable, working, great. YouTube channel, all that, great. But the layout wasn't great for me. And then we kind of built the other side where I had the live stream set up in the big 800 gallon. That was better, spending more time with them. And then we come here, we build all the ponds, we build the urban fish farm and that was viable. But again, not a place to hang out. So let me change it up, right? We had, even in some of these videos you saw, we had tanks over here. That wall used to be nothing but acrylic aquariums, right? And we used to have another, instead of that couch, it was 150 gallon, just like that one, right? But there was no good spot that you wanted to hang out in here. It was, if you were out here, you were here to feed, clean, film, all of that, not hang out. There's no spot for other people. Like I have some furniture, you can see it right here, but no one liked to sit in those chairs and they weren't ever positioned in a way where you could really get good looks at the fish and what was going on. And so I changed layout again and now we're in this form where I do have a couch and I do have the chair and I have less aquariums and this layout is completely different. And why is nobody talking about this? Well, I think there's a few factors. One, if you're a YouTuber on YouTube, you got to keep doing stuff. People want to see you do stuff. They don't tune in to watch when there's nothing to watch, right? So some of it is like, well, if I tear these tanks down and I replace them with 20s, that's 20 new aquarium setups. That's 20 more videos. And there's always that to growing and that's its own YouTube treadmill, right? And I was on that treadmill. Let's be honest. And most people, you have to be on that treadmill. And now I'm at a point where I'm more focused on what am I enjoying, and if I enjoy it, I will convey it to you better. I will actually be more helpful to you. There are more people that need to see how 7 aquariums are set up than 70 aquariums are set up because not that many people are gonna keep 70 aquariums. And so I also did a lot of soul searching and found that this is the type of layout I need for both work and for pleasure. I sit at my desk and watch fish way more. Like I want to say it's up 9,000%, where I come out here, I'm feeding, I'm looking, okay, yep, I spent 30 minutes, okay. Now, I might spend a couple hours a day just looking at fish, in between every call, in between every Facebook post, comment I'm reading, all that, like, oh yeah, how are they doing? I also have been filming a lot more. I'm just going, wow, look at this, oh, look at that. And so, for me, that's brought the enjoyment back. Now, I know I've got a YouTuber coming in about a week, and it's gonna be a nightmare in here, because they're like, oh, bro, everything is like torn apart, like, you've only got 10 aquariums, like, why would he even show up? Coming all the way from Singapore, yeah. But it's for me, and that's very important. And I think when it comes to a layout, there are certain things, which I realize we're 9 minutes in, it's just starting to talk about layout. There are certain things you wanna do. You might want easy, accessible water to your aquariums. You might want easy, accessible drains. Now, let me show you stuff. even in this build, we go, oh, that's gonna be great. I almost never use it. So if you look right here, and you've got all these stands, well, we thought, wouldn't it be nice to be able to drain water super easy? Let me open this bad boy up. Ooh, you're gonna see all our secrets. If I open this bad boy up too, oh, right here, right there's a drain. So you can drain water and it just leaves the aquarium in the room. Oh, come on, of course. So you build the room going, yeah, that's gonna be real nice, right? Just easy mode, draining water. I never use them. I have automatic water change. And yes, sometimes we gravel vacuum, but I have a lot of live plants, so it doesn't matter. So even then, like, I don't think anybody, Dean included, myself included, like I'm on fish room. If you add up fish rooms, right? So you have my original like living room, then you have my garage plus my living room, that's 2. Then you have the setup at the new, the home I moved to, that'd be 3. Then you have the fish room at the store, that'd be 4, right? Then you have bought a house, that's 5. Then you have this one, 6. I redid it, 7. You have the store expansion, 8. I've helped Zenzo redo his room, 9. I've helped Aquapros do his, 10. I've helped Bob do his a little bit, 11. So I'm at like maybe 11 fish room refreshes and buildings and doing it, right? But even if I do another build, ooh, what about this layout? What about, ooh, would that be better? So you're still learning. And so the things that I have learned, okay? Easy access to water, both draining and filling, critical. Controlling the temperature in the room. Early on, I learned infinite insulation in the ceiling. I remember specifically, I was blowing in insulation at 10 minutes till midnight, New Year's Eve one year. It pops up in my Facebook every time because my wife took a picture because I was dressed in this crazy suit, not to get insulation all over me because I was blowing in stuff that wouldn't be itchy, but there was still itchy stuff in there. And that pays dividends though. If you can keep the heat from escaping out the top, heating the room is a lot easier. And then, I also learned that I like keeping the room at 72 because it's not too hot, not too cold, and I can be in here for a long time. Dean's fish room, you go in there, it's 82. You're going, oh, how do you stay in here? He's like, yeah, I know, it's brutal. You don't want that either, right? That's not a layout thing, but that's a environment thing. I also use dehumidification. You want to get rid of the wetness in the air because then that 72 feels like 82, even though it's only 72. And we learned that at the store. We learned that here, all those places. So a good dehumidifier, somewhere it's not super loud. And then I like it to be quiet. I like to put an air pump in, a centralized one somewhere. And then it comes down to seating. Zenzo really enjoys his room once we put in the seats. And he put in a little mini desk. And my advice would be not so much how do you lay out the tanks. I think that's easy. You go, hey, there's a wall. We can put tanks there. I'll enjoy that. I think it's where do you put your seats and where do you put a desk? A desk. You need to give yourself a reason to be with those aquariums. If you don't have a reason, you just won't. And I've seen it time and time again of like, well, there's no reason for me to be there unless I'm actively doing something. Part of it is you need to observe. And so the other thing I would say is I really enjoy having my tanks at one level. Now I've had them at 2, I've had them at 3, I've even tried 4, 4 different levels of tanks. And if you're looking for ultimate layout, I think 1. Not having to squat down and catch fish down there and work on it down there or get on a ladder to feed, right? I think if you're really trying to pack tanks into a tight space, 2 is optimal. If you've got a bigger space and you want more enjoyment, 1 layer is optimal. In a store, being that space is money, 3 is optimal, obviously. And I've seen people do 4, but I don't think that's optimal. The amount of time you gotta get on a ladder and do stuff, I think you're losing money and employee time. So yeah, layouts, I think don't try to pack in as many as you can. Try to give yourself some room to breathe. I'm usually most impressed with people's fish rooms where they've built a good area to hang out in. Of like, wow, like a fish room, for example, that I really enjoyed was Chris Lukup's. Only had 7 aquariums, nano tanks, but he had, basically beanbags on the floor. He had his desk there. We'd eat lunch, we'd eat dinner, we'd just hang out. We'd have music going. It was just it was the place to be. And that fish room really made a lot of sense. And that's what this fish room is turning into for me, is like, yeah, there's music going. I got a TV screen. I got that there. I've got no reason to want to leave this. And that's a big difference. I went from not having a reason to be here outside of work, filming videos, feeding, to now, well, yeah, I got a great desk set up and I got a couch. I can take a nap right there if I wanted. I can get out here and be quiet. I can work on a project, no distractions besides fish, and that's a good distraction for me. So that's what I would say with layout is not so much how do you maximize. I think it's how do you minimize tankage and maximize enjoyment and leave yourself negative space, leave yourself a desk, leave yourself a TV. It's more about building a space you want to hang out with that includes aquariums instead of a fish room that is only a fish room. And I've been incorporating, I've got like pictures, I've been adding pictures, canvases I print of just fishy things and stuff that I've done, because that's what I would do in an office, or that's what I would do in a room I want to hang out in. I want to remember stuff. I want to go, oh yeah, that was fun. Oh yeah, that was cool too. A trinket, I want to put a trinket there. I want to do a thing. In a fish room, when you plan it out, you're like, it's aquariums floor to ceiling. How do I make sure everything's waterproof? How do I make sure things are efficient? How do I make sure I got a cart holding all my foods? And that's just a different game. And so I would tell you, really think, do you want a fish room, or do you want a really cool space to hang out in that has fish tanks? And I think that's what we all want. Now, outside of business, I think that's what you want. If you really ask yourself, do I need 100 aquariums, or do I need 50 and a couch and a desk and a TV and a fridge and an extra seat for someone and a rolly stool like I'm on? Hey, that's nice. I think you want that. I think that's actually what you want. You might daydream about other people's setups, but the people that really focus on less is more, that's who I'm pining after. And I realize I'm going through this big transition, and maybe Cory doesn't know anything, but you asked me, and so that's where I'm giving you my advice on layouts. Let's not be bound to a ladder. Look at this right here. What's right there? Oh, that's a ladder. I've got another step stool ladder in here too. That was mostly to hang stuff and look behind the tanks, but there are definitely fish rooms where you have to have multiple ladders because there's 3 or 4 rows across the whole thing. And if you don't have a ladder, you can't see into that tank, and you gotta go around someone in the ladder, and you can't, I don't like fish rooms where 2 people can't walk by each other. It's single file. It's not great. Not great for filming, not great for feeding, not great for enjoying. And and I would say focus on enjoyment. That layout, if you maximize enjoyment, will always pay dividends. No one goes in and goes, this place is so sweet, I love it. Wow, look what you've done with all this, but you only got 20 aquariums in here. No one ever says that. They might go like, wow, you got a lot of aquariums. Half your bulbs are burned out, and you caught an algae, but they might go away like, yeah, that guy might need like half as many aquariums. And I've been there. I've been in all facets of these, and I've had all versions. That's how I think I can advise a bit on what has worked out well for me in different stages of my life. And you figuring out where you're at will really help you with the layout of this thing. And are you gonna buy a couch that fits a space, or are you gonna use the couch you have and make the aquariums fit the space? I'm much more on that. I used to be like, oh, I'll just buy the thing that fits there. But if you got a great couch, use that great couch and make other stuff fit. Like, yeah, you could put an aquarium right there. I totally could, but then I've got it wedged in between another one, and I'm focusing too much on how do I get the max gallons, and not focusing on, well, maybe I want something else down there. I don't know what I want yet. And that's usually what I find when you're building a fish room. You lay it out, you're doing all things. You plan every square inch. The problem is once you're done building it, you go, yeah, I forgot about that. Ooh, yeah, really would like that right now. Yep, that would have been good too. If you leave yourself some breathing room, you can go, oh, well, I'll put that over there. Good thing I didn't fill it to the max. So thanks for the questions. Leave some comments down below. If you have a question I'm interested in, I'll try and answer it here on a video. So we'll talk to you later.